Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the School Administration and Supervision virtual information session. My name is Sion John. I'm the Assistant Director here at the Johns Hopkins School of Education. Also here with me, I have my colleague from the Office of Admissions, and she will introduce herself.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Serena Stewart. I am an assistant director in our Office of Admissions at the School of Education, and I'm so excited that you took the time to be with us this afternoon to learn a little bit more about this program. Welcome.
Thank you, Serena. Presenting today, we have a student speaker, Mallory Wright, and we also have our faculty lead of the School Administration and Supervision program here with us, Dr. Annette Anderson. And before we get started, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping topics. First, today's webinar is being recorded. We'll be able to share the link to the recorded video within 10 days. Lastly, we'll have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Please type your question in the Q&A box and we'll read and answer your questions. Here on the slide, I'd like to share the agenda for today's virtual information session. We'll kick off the presentation, share an overview of the Johns Hopkins School of Education. I'll introduce Dr. Anderson. Dr. Anderson will go over the details of the School Administration and Supervision program. Next, we have a student speaker, Mallory Wright, and she'll talk about her experience at the Johns Hopkins School of Education. I'll cover admissions requirements, financial aid and scholarship, and leave the floor open for questions at the end. And to start, we're one of 9 schools at Johns Hopkins University. We began offering college courses for teachers in 1909, and then we became our own school in 2007. And we're proud to share that the Johns Hopkins School of Education is consistently ranked one of the top schools in education by the U.S. News and World Report. And here on the slide, we have some quick facts about our school. We offer 25 graduate programs, and that includes our doctoral, master's, and graduate certificate programs. And then we also have over 24,000 SOE alums. And for faculty introduction, Dr. Anderson is a native of Baltimore and a graduate of Baltimore City Public Schools. As you can see on the slide, she has served in a variety school-based positions, including classroom teacher, teacher leader, curriculum coordinator, assistant principal, and she served as the chief executive officer and founding principal of Widener Partnership Charter School, the first university-assisted charter school in Pennsylvania. The school quickly became known to state and local education officials as a successful model for university public school partnerships. So at this time, I'd like to hand the floor over to Dr. Anderson. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so glad to have you here. I'm so excited to talk about our Administration and Supervision program, and I want to thank the admissions team that put this webinar together because I know this is a labor of love, but it is labor. So I want to thank you for all that you've done to organize this today. Thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, so what I'd like to start out by saying is that you're in this webinar today because you are trying to consider whether you are ready to lead. You are looking at the tools that you will need to be an effective school leader in today's evolving educational environment, and you're trying to discern what the right program is for you in order to be successful in your career. I will tell you that our School Administration and Supervision program really has focused on ensuring that our candidates have the knowledge, the skills, and the dispositions to make sound leadership decisions so that they can have a lasting academic, social, and community impact. And I would say that our online program is specifically designed to help you to prepare to be highly proficient in those 3 areas so that you can transition into leadership with expertise stamina, and support. I want to say I'm just so delighted to see my former mentee, Mallory, right here with us this afternoon. She has just done amazing things with her career, and I just really have loved watching her journey and watching her really grow into the leader of a major Baltimore City public school that she has become in such a short period of time. I will say that she absorbed all of the nuggets that I tried to glean for her, and I hope that some of them were helpful as she went into her next role. And so I would say that Mallory is here as evidence. So we have evidence that our program works. We see our leaders walk into leadership roles very quickly. And we know that the brand of Johns Hopkins has been able to be a banner over them as they walk into these leadership roles. But the rigor of our program is exactly what I think many of our candidates need in order to be successful in an evolving and challenging educational environment. I'll also say before we go to the next slide that we do also offer a certificate program in educational leadership for independent schools. We also have leaders who've come through this program and are all across the country and indeed around the world, which is also one of our key features, that we have candidates that are across the globe placed into leadership and thriving. And so that's a point of pride for us here at Johns Hopkins University in the School of Education. Thank you. Next slide, please. So the question you have to ask yourself is whether you are ready. Are you ready to address complex challenges in education and communities as a reflective practitioner? Are you ready to become an evidence-based decision maker? Are you ready to apply technology into the work that you do every day? Are you willing to become a strong advocate for diversity and inclusion and be able to say, yes, absolutely, I am an expert in content? If you are ready to take that plunge, if you're ready to take this next step, then our program is the program for you. Thank you. Next slide, please. I wonder where you are in your career, what you're thinking about. As I talk to candidates when they come through the application process, I always start my interviews by asking them, where are you going? What do you see for yourself next? What do you want to do? Where are you? And how did you get in this queue today to make this next step towards leadership? So to everyone who's considering their next role in leadership, whether that's as a content specialist, whether that's joining your instructional leadership team, whether it's becoming a department chair or an assistant principal, all the way up to principal or head of school or lower or upper head of school, we have a program that is designed to get you there flexibly, but quickly, and also with great content and quality. Thank you. Next slide, please. So the question that I often get from candidates is whether they belong here at Johns Hopkins University. And I would say absolutely. Our program was designed with rigor. Absolutely. Our program was designed to be able to give you some value. And we know that the trade that you're going to get for that Johns Hopkins degree is going to be access to greater networks and to be in leadership roles more quickly, which is what we found. So I know that the rigor of our classroom dialogue, as well as the classroom activities, are going to put you at a distinct advantage. I often hear from students, Dr. Anderson, those case studies that we did in your class were exactly the kinds of things I had to do when I applied for the AP role. I see Ms. Wright shaking her head because she knows that those are exactly the kinds of things that we make you think about as you're heading into those leadership interviews. And so I want you to be ready. We want you to be successful the first time. So we want to make sure that there is strong rigor in the program, but that doesn't mean that you don't belong. You absolutely belong. We have all kinds of supports to make sure that the networks that you build while you are a candidate here in our School of Education are going to serve you well as you move on to your next position. The other thing that I would say is that our School of Education has a very strong value on diversity. We have a very diverse student body, as you heard earlier, and our classroom teachers, as well as our experienced educators, counselors, and content specialists really have been able to demonstrate that diversity is a huge priority for us here at the School of Education. Thank you. Next slide, please. In terms of program options, we really have thrived because we have this traditional online certificate program. This program has really taken off because it offers you flexibility. So depending on when you start the program, many people can finish that certificate in 12 months. You'll hear a little bit more about that, but there are people that come into our program who've been assigned a instructional leadership team role, for example, and they know that they need to get this additional credential. And so our program is one that definitely will allow you to get where you need to go relatively quickly. We also have a program that will allow people who are current TFA, master's degree candidates, or TFA candidates who have taken certain electives in our program that have been approved already, pre-approved, to join our program. And our candidates have up to 3 years to complete all of the certificate programs. So we are very excited that you have, if you're choosing the master's degree track, that you have up to 5 years to finish a master's degree program, but many of our students finish those within 3 years. Our certificate program has a bandwidth of about 3 years, but I'm telling you, people come into this program when they are ready and want to quickly complete the program. They do it within 12 to 18 months. Thank you. Next slide, please. Getting through the program, we offer our classes in the spring, in the summer, and the fall. And our independent school leadership course programs are typically offered based in Baltimore, but also online. Our online A&S courses typically have 2 starts. So we have a August start. So right now we're in the middle of our August start, and then we'll have a middle of October start that goes into the middle of December. They are 8-week courses in the A&S program. I will tell you that the capstone internship is not offered during the summer semester. We want you to have a full summer semester so that you can gather the items that you need to be successful with your internship, because we also want that to be a portfolio that you can take digitally to an employer and show your qualifications to go into that next leadership role. So it's important for us to make sure that that capstone internship is handled very rigorously and vigorously. And so that is not offered during the summer semester. But candidates can take up to 2 courses per semester. In very extenuating circumstances, I will approve a candidate to take a 3rd course if I give permission, once I've had a conversation with you about why we need to take 3 classes instead of 2. I take it really personally to get to know all of our students, our candidates, because it's important to me, as not only as an administrator of this program, but also as a mom of 3 students. Well, 2, I've got 1 in college now. So 2 that are currently in city schools. I want to make sure that the people that we are graduating out of our programs are ready. And so I do take a strong interest in all of my advisees and making sure that we have a path and a program plan for you so that you can be successful in completing the program in a timely fashion. Some people do choose to take 1 class a semester depending on their schedule. You may be a coach for sports. You may have after-school activities. You may have some other responsibilities, family, second job, because we know a lot of teachers are you having a second job, unfortunately. So we do want to be as flexible as possible. So the other thing that I would say is, if you are interested in this program, you should think about who you want to mentor you once you get to the internship, because that is a critically key role that will help you when you get to this part of the internship. So think about now, as you're thinking about what you want to do and who you want to supervise you as a site-based mentor, you should really have some talks with them about whether they're ready to make the commitment to perform oversight of your work during the internship. And every candidate in our internship will participate in an internship orientation. That's mostly online during the semester before they begin the internship, to help to review those internship expectations so that no one is surprised, because the internship is a rigorous semester. Thank you. Next slide, please. So we have 2 certificate pathways, as I was saying earlier. One is that the online program is open to all admin and supervision candidates who already have a master's degree in another area. So if you have a master's degree in, for example, biology or English as a second language, and now you're ready to step into this A&S certificate pathway for certification, that is perfectly the right way to do this. But if you don't have a master's degree yet, we do have a master's program for students who want to earn a master's degree in administration and supervision. There are a roster of available online classes, flexibly paced so that they can accommodate your busy lifestyle. And we generally offer flexibility to choose the sequence of your courses, except for the internship. The internship has to be the actual last class so that we can make sure that you are building your portfolio on your prior knowledge. Thank you. Next slide, please. As I said earlier, we have a TFA partnership that allows for people who have gone through TFA. We typically offer 2 A&S courses as electives. School law and effective leadership are the 2 classes that we typically offer as electives. So if you've taken those 2 classes as electives during your TFA core period, you can bring those into the A&S program, and then you would start taking the other remaining 4 classes: organization and administration of schools, supervision and professional development, and then conclude with curriculum theory and then the internship. Thank you. Next slide, please. If you're coming in without the TFA endorsement, then you will take those 6 classes. And again, like I said, you have much more flexibility around how you can take those classes. As you can see, these are the 6 courses of the internship. And aside from the the 6 courses of the program, and aside from the internship in admin and supervision, you can take those classes in any order that you'd like. Thank you. Next slide, please. So people ask me, Dr. Anderson, how can I finish this in 1 year? What would that look like? This is a sample. This does not have to be the way that you do it. But if you wanted to start in, for example, if you wanted to start in the spring, you could take organization and administration of schools as well as effective leadership. And then over the summer, take school law and supervision of professional development. And then you would round out the following fall of 24, for example, with curriculum theory and the internship in admin and supervision. And you would then be done in 1 calendar year. So it is very possible to do that. And I see people do it all the time, because the thing about people that I've known since I've taken over this program, and now it's been almost 10 years, is that people are very interested in finishing quickly. Because they know that this is the next step of their career. So they want to be able to get to that next role, and having these credits underneath them, under their belt, is the way that they are able to do that pretty quickly. Thank you. Next slide, please. As I said, this is an online certificate course format that is 8 weeks. It's facilitated on a weekly cycle in Canvas. It's highly interactive. It's a balance of some whole group, some team activities, as well as individual activities and assignments each week. So it's a rigorous 8 weeks, but you will find that if you have a high degree of comfort with basic technology, you will be able to get through the courses pretty quickly. And we do try to provide some interactive chats for students in the program, but because our students are so likely to be from not just regional locations, but from around the globe, it's sometimes hard to try to get everybody on a group chat for a synchronous session. I will tell you, I looked at the registration for today's session. We have people registered from as far away as Ghana, Kenya, Ethiopia. That's not uncommon. We have students that are in Guatemala, Mexico, China, Greece. So I would say that we typically do have a number of people that come internationally into the program. And I think that it really does facilitate very strong discussion amongst our program of people that are talking about what they're seeing in education in the field, in the location that they're in. So I think it makes the interaction and the networking that much stronger. Thank you. Next slide, please. So as I said, if you do not have a master's degree, we do have a 39 credit master's degree program that people can complete within 3 years. You have up to 5 years to complete that. It offers those same certificate courses that I mentioned earlier, but it does build it out with a few more additional courses so that you can have enough credits for a full master's degree. And those courses are also offered online. Thank you. Next slide, please. And for the internship, I do sometimes get a lot of questions about the internship. So I'll go briefly into an overview of what the internship looks like. So our program for the A&S program is designed for public school district employees who will have at least 27 months of satisfactory teaching performance before they begin the internship. So the question I often get is, if I haven't been teaching for 27 months or 3 years, is it too soon for me to apply to the program? Actually, the answer is no. But if you want to get your certification, you will need to have 27 months before you apply for the certification. So sometimes we get people who are in their first year of teaching, which is sometimes nuts to me, because you've just gotten into teaching as a classroom teacher and now you're already ready to go into leadership. But if you want to start the program, absolutely, you can start the program. But by the time you apply for your certification, you should have the 27 months so that you can be able to be deemed eligible by the Maryland State Department of Education to get the credential. And I'm happy to talk to any of you if you have any questions about that. As I said earlier, the internship is undertaken as the final capstone course in the sequence, and candidates who typically complete the semester-long internship in their current school must have the permission of their Admin 1 certified school leader. So that could be your principal, it could be your assistant principal, it could be a department chair, but someone has to be willing to oversee your internship period. And you should be able to bring them in so that they can understand what your program is going to look like before you actually begin the internship semester. We from Hopkins will assign you a site supervisor who will meet with both you and your mentor the semester before your internship begins. So probably if you were going to start in the fall, for example, you would meet with them in August, and they will also be with you during that semester to keep track of your progress and to check in with your mentor to make sure that the assignments are being completed in a timely fashion. Both the mentor and your site supervisor have to successfully evaluate your performance during the internship in order for you to successfully complete the program requirements. And I would say that our program is aligned to meet all of the requirements of the PSEL, the Professional Standards for Educational Leaders. Thank you. Next slide, please. So people often ask, how do we assess the knowledge that the candidates have? How do we know that they are ready? So for the internship assessment, there are several different pieces that will be part of your digital portfolio. That includes your core beliefs reflection assignment, where you talk about what you believe about school leadership, and you think really critically about how you would work in your school setting. Also, we have a 200-hour requirement, 150 active hours and 50 passive observational hours of artifact collection, where you're showing what you're doing in the school during your internship. For example, attending board meetings would be a passive requirement, but actually participating in a special education meeting or overseeing a preparation for a PTA meeting, that would actually be an active part. So it's 150 hours of active involvement and 50 hours of passive involvement to culminate in this 200-hour requirement. Then there's a clinical supervision reflection, where you're looking at how the candidate can supervise and assess the classroom teachers that they will have oversight over. Then your mentor has an assessment. You do a portfolio organization of all of the artifacts that you're collecting. And then there's a presentation of that. And then there's a portfolio reflection paper, where you are really downloading your final assessment of all of this work at the end of the semester. Thank you. Next slide, please. Also, I want to talk to my folks that are in independent school leadership. So one of the things that we're seeing is an explosion in the number of people after the pandemic who are pivoting to the independent school world. That is fascinating for us. It's also been fascinating for us because that means that the diversity in our independent school world is also really skyrocketing. And so what we know is that people who come into our independent school leadership program often are first-gen independent school leaders. And so our program tends to attract folks that may not be used to the independent school world. They may be first-gen independent school leaders. So there's a 5-course certificate in educational leadership for independent schools that is meant to help you to succeed in that environment. So often, for example, I hear from candidates that say, I'm a diversity coordinator in my school, but I'd like to move into leadership, or I'm the coach for the football team, or I coach the lacrosse team, and I'd like to think about how I can move up into leadership. And people who have those specific roles in independent schools often find that they are challenged by not having access to some of the other pieces of the independent school landscape, like governance, like fundraising and development, like board relations. And so our program is meant to help to make that candidate much more well-rounded so that they can be successful in applying for those independent school roles. The other thing about this that I will say is that independent schools, as I've said, are becoming much more diverse because of the student bodies. And so we need to have independent school leaders who will reflect that diversity for the students. Thank you. Next slide, please. Oh, now I get to turn it over to one of my favorite, most favorite people in the whole wide world. When she came to our program, she questioned herself a lot. She questioned whether she wanted to do this. She questioned whether she had the stamina to do this, whether she had the background to do it. She comes from a family of school leaders. Her mother was a principal. And so she knew that there was that pathway in front of her, but she was not sure how to get there herself. We spent lots and lots and lots and lots of hours throughout her time in the program talking about her next steps and thinking about what she should do. I'm so delighted to see her in her current pathway because she's doing such a fabulous job. And I can't take all the credit for who she is and who she is becoming. But I want her to know that I'm very proud of her and that I just see you continuing to rise. So without further ado, I'd love to turn it over to one of my favorite former students and advisees, but she's just a star on the rise, Miss Mallory Wright.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anderson, for that wonderful introduction. It almost brought tears to my eyes because she is completely right, everyone. I doubted myself. I thought twice. I thought thrice. I thought over and over, and I wondered if I was the right fit for this program. But I can truly say that my experience at Johns Hopkins University was just amazing. Just a little bit about my journey. As Dr. Anderson mentioned, I am from a family of educators on the Eastern Shore, and I went to Towson for undergrad and just stumbled upon Johns Hopkins for grad school. And so once I made the decision, that was the only school I applied to. That's the only school that I wanted to attend. And I got in the program, and I was one of those teachers who was very critical of my administration. I know Dr. Anderson remembers some of my early work in the program. I was very critical of administration. I didn't understand the lens of the administrator. And so I can definitely say that the program really opened my eyes to different perspectives. And it really gave me a different respect for the role and for the responsibilities of school leadership. So I started my master's degree in 2015 as a second-year teacher. And so I was right at that cusp of 27 months when I finished in 2018. But I can definitely say that it was an awesome experience. I met amazing people, colleagues, and I actually found my master's program therapeutic. It was very helpful to know that there were colleagues that were in my program that were experiencing things similar to me in different contexts. And so for me, I really enjoyed, and I did attend the program in person, but I really enjoyed going to class and being able to have those discussions, because sometimes I felt like I'm the only one that's going through this issue at my school. I'm the only one that's experiencing this, but having that support system and my colleagues and my classmates was super helpful. Something else that Dr. Anderson drilled into us as students is that you lift as you climb. And so I can definitely say that over the course of the program, so many of us have stayed in contact then and now. We all still network with one another, check in with one another. And I can say in just so many ways, so many more ways than one, the education that we experience at Johns Hopkins, the reflection, and that's something I mentioned on this slide. that reflection upon oneself is so important as a school leader, because when your vantage point changes, you really have to realize that your responsibility as a school leader is to be responsive and responsible for students of all cultures, of all walks of life, and teachers as well, right? And so the program really did an amazing job of helping me to examine my own biases, my own stereotypes, and to overcome those, to really lead into what my core beliefs are. As a leader now in this space, I'm a fourth-year assistant principal at Roland Park Elementary Middle School. I have served a wide array of ages. When I came to Roland Park, I was early elementary. Currently in my fourth year, and I'm the 8th grade assistant principal, but I can just say that so many of the lessons that I learned at Johns Hopkins with Dr. Anderson, with so many of the faculty there, were so worthwhile. I constantly still quote my school law professor, because what I don't think a lot of people understand, and I would explain this to my friends that were outside of the program, that having a practitioner for some of those subject areas as an instructor is amazing. Our school law professor was a attorney. He was a school law attorney. And so that was so helpful, because we really got to see school law from a practitioner standpoint. And so I can't rave enough about the education at Johns Hopkins. Yes, it is rigorous, but I was able to become an assistant principal after 5 years in the classroom, 1 year at central office. And again, now I'm going into my 10th year of education, but as a 4th-year assistant principal. And I'm young as well, so I'm just turning 31. And so I can't support this program enough. The diversity was amazing. I just loved how diverse everything was. I felt like we talked about topics that were diverse and that were reflective of our landscape. I felt like looking around the table at those who were in my program, people had come from different walks of life, and that was helpful as well. And so, as I mentioned here on my slide, it's a lot to learn. Being in the seat of a school leader, it is a lot to learn. But I can definitely say that nothing feels brand new, because I had such a rigorous and valuable education at Johns Hopkins. So I definitely hope that you all explore this program, consider this program. I would love to help with anything or to answer any questions that you all have. Hopefully, if you all want to share my information, I'm happy to help. And the last thing that I did want to mention is I am a doctoral candidate. I am not finishing at Johns Hopkins. I'm currently at Morgan doing my doctorate. But something that's so valuable is that so many of my courses at Johns Hopkins during my master's program counted towards my doctoral program. So that cut my doctoral program down. And I can just truly say that because of that, of the diversity and being able to really explore research interests that were important to me in my master's program, that led wonderfully into my doctoral program, to the point where I just feel like I have had the Baltimore experience, Towson, Johns Hopkins, and Morgan, and I am just super proud of my education at Johns Hopkins. So thank you all for having me. Thank you all for organizing this wonderful webinar. And I look forward to seeing the next crew of School Administration and Supervision master's students at Johns Hopkins. Thank you all for having me again.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson, and thank you, Ms. Wright, for being here and for the wonderful presentation today. So now we're going to continue on and go over the application requirements. The applicants must submit a completed application, and that application can be found on the school's website. Keep in mind there is an $80 application fee. We'll need official transcripts, including institutions you may have taken courses but did not receive a degree. Again, this is from all post-secondary institutions that you have attended. You'll also need an essay. Please visit the school's website on the admissions webpage to learn more about the essay portion of the application. You'll need an updated resume or CV, 2 letters of recommendation. And lastly, the GRE is not required for the School Administration and Supervision program. And there are a few additional steps you need to take in order to complete the application process if you're an international student. You must submit a TOEFL or IELTS score or a TOEFL waiver request form. And if your degree was completed outside of the US, you'll need to complete a course-by-course evaluation. And additional information can be found on the school's website. The tuition for the 2023-2024 academic school year is $1,025 per credit for face-to-face courses, and also $1,025 per credit and a $20 per credit technology fee for online courses. We encourage you to view our tuition fees webpage on the school's website for the most up-to-date information on tuition and fees. If you're interested in applying for financial aid, we strongly encourage you to apply for financial aid when you start your application. And we do offer a limited number of partial need-based institutional scholarships each year. And the awards range average from $800 to $3,000 per semester. And they are applied to tuition expenses beginning in the fall semester. And keep in mind, when you apply for the SOE Endowed Scholarship, you need to complete the FAFSA form in order to apply for the SOE Endowed Scholarship. And to learn if you qualify for the Endowed Scholarship, please visit the school's website. So thank you for attending the School Administration and Supervision virtual information session. At this time, we would like to open up the floor for questions for both Dr. Anderson. We also have our student speaker, Ms. Wright. And if you have any admissions related questions, please type your question in the Q&A box and we will read and answer your questions. And Dr. Anderson, it looks like we have some couple program related questions. And while you answer that, if we get any admissions related questions, I'll message the students back. I hope that works for you.
Perfect. So I do see a couple of them. The first one that I see asks about TFA. She says that she's a part of the 2005 cohort of TFA and said that she wants to know if she had to be a recent core member to apply for the TFA track. So typically, so this is 2023. Yes, I think that, so I think we would have to do a transcript audit for you to see if we could use those credits. So you would have to apply, and then once you apply, we would have to do a transcript audit because typically we count credits that are within the last 5 years. So I'd have to look at your transcript and see those courses so that we can make a determination. But thank you for, that's actually a really good question. Thanks for asking that. And then the second question is, do we need to write a dissertation or thesis for the master's program? No, again, the internship has a final, a culminating reflection paper that is not a thesis, but it is pretty rigorous in terms of its requirements. So you will complete that based on the internship process, but it's not a thesis. You have much more of a practitioner active role in completing your credits in this program. So you would be more reflective of that. And then drawing on your theory and as well your current classwork and the readings, you would use that to inform your final reflection paper. And I think that, I don't know if Ms. Wright can remember it being fairly rigorous. It was a rigorous process, but it's absolutely doable. And you do it within the semester. Okay, thank you. I see another question that says, I'm a school counselor hoping one day to become a department head. My district does not have a department head for school counseling at the moment. Would the principal be an appropriate mentor for the program? Absolutely. You could absolutely use your principal. As long as they have an Admin 1 credential, they are an appropriate mentor for you. So yes. Absolutely. And then I have another question that asks, do prospective international students qualify for grants and financial aid? So I'm going to turn that over to the admissions staff to step in and answer that.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. So unfortunately, international students do not qualify for grant and financial aid. We encourage international students to look for external scholarships, and feel free to email our the Office of Admissions, and we can provide some links to some external scholarships for international students.
Great. Any other questions? Do you have curriculum on school safety? That's a great question. Actually, I'm glad you asked that because I am, as you know, the deputy director of the Johns Hopkins Center for Safe and Healthy Schools, and that is very important to me. So school safety is a continued issue that we talk about. I actually get to talk about it quite a bit with all of the students in our courses, and in our effective leadership class, there actually are assignments that are based around school safety. So we address it there. One of the things that we undertook in the School of Education was trying to make sure that as we opened our Center for Safe and Healthy Schools, that we were paying attention to some of the evolving conversation around school safety. I think much of that has been based in equipment, facial recognition, technology, etc. And so we're trying to think about how we keep that really focused on issues like mental health and student safety and building strong relationships with trusted adults. So we do try to address that in our program. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that great question. Okay, any course on African school management settings? So no, I will say this though, because our program does draw quite a few international students, we would like for those posts that you engage with your classmates in Canvas to be a mirror of where you're from. So we want you to talk about the challenges of working in your specific setting. We want you to talk about some of the innovative ideas that you have about schools and going into leadership in these roles and rising into school leadership. So your school structure will look different than someone's school structure in Guatemala, for example, or someone in California, for example, or someone in Maine even. And so the beauty of our program is really listening to your peers and your colleagues around what that looks like in their spaces. It's always very fascinating to me as I talk to students. We have students that come from Alaska. We have students that come from New York State. As I talk to students from all around the world and they come into the program, our program is really designed to probe your school setting, what's happening in your school setting. And, Ms. Wright talked a little bit earlier about how she was very diacritical of her school administration. And I think that what you find is that some of those criticisms are universal. Sometimes they are, because I think until you put on the lens of leadership, you don't really understand how the decision-making process goes. But part of the reason that you're in our program is so that you can have real life exposure to what is happening around school administration and think about what you should do in your specific setting. So I often talk, I've had really great students that have come from, as I said, we've had students from Ghana, we've had students from Kenya, we've had students from all across the continent of Africa. And so the way that schools are organized in those places give you an opportunity to really think critically in sharing what works about the way the school is organized and what might be an opportunity for improvement. Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. I actually have a question for Ms. Wright. Can you share some insight on how you're able to balance like schoolwork and working full time? How much do you remember spending time on coursework? Because our students, our prospective students, when they email the Office of Admissions, they plan on working full time and then going to school part time. So they're concerned about balancing, the working and attending school part time.
Awesome. I'd be happy to share about that. What's so helpful about the program is I believe that the program is made for practitioners. And so much of what you're reflecting on has to do with your current setting, has to do with systems and structures around your school and your school district. So to me, and this is kind of how I thought about it and compartmentalized, is that a lot of the times when I was doing schoolwork, I was reflecting on my current workplace, right? And so for me, it was really a balancing act of compartmentalization. So I would go to work, teach. I was a teacher at the time. I usually would stay at work for another hour, finishing up anything for work. Oftentimes maybe I would have a little break and I would, transition to doing schoolwork. So I just had a structure around it. That's what worked for me. Yeah, you just kind of have to find your groove though, because it can be done. But if you really just think about school as a reflection of your workplace, it's super helpful. Making those connections will help you feel like it's not as daunting as it is, because it really does relate to one another. And that's how you start to shift your mindset and perspective into the leader's perspective. Because then the truth of it, right, when you're sitting in the seat, is leadership takes time. Like I am at work a lot, right? I am always here. I am typically at school from 7:30 to 5 o'clock on a regular day. And as a middle school assistant principal, there are games, there are activities, there are nights, there are evenings. And so you also have to consider that the program that you are considering, the responsibility of being a school leader is weighty, right? And so, especially if you have a family, if you have children, these are just conversations, as you would with any program, that you should have with your loved ones to make sure that you can balance and allocate time to everything equally.
Thank you, Ms. Wright. I think for Dr. Anderson, we might have a comment. I'm not sure if it's a question in the chat box.
Yes, I think it's more of a comment about how to liaise with the district to change the management, which is something, it's not uncommon. We frequently hear from our candidates that they feel that, they want change for the students so that academically students are thriving. It's a common discussion. And so we are here to offer some framework around how to do that for you, how to navigate that, and to think about how to reflect on that so that you become a better and more effective leader stepping into the role.
Also, do you mind if I add, Dr. Anderson?
Absolutely.
Something also to consider is that as a teacher, I think I really misunderstood how all the pieces worked, right? And so, especially in the internship part of this program, you really start to understand stakeholders. And so this program will definitely help you open your eyes to understanding how all the pieces fit together. Sometimes it feels like, from a teacher's perspective, things are mismanaged, but from a leadership perspective, you may not have the ability or the permission to change things as much as you wish to, right? And so that's why, the program and the internship are so helpful, because it helps you understand how all the pieces work together, that oftentimes it almost seems like, from a teacher's lens, it's almost like it's not visible to you. Like, I feel like sometimes as a teacher, I was like, oh, I had no idea that this was going on. But like, as a leader, that's the type of leader I am, is I try to be a transparent leader to my teachers, to say, okay, understandably, this may not feel like it's a priority for us, but at the end of the day, we do have to understand, this is a byproduct of this, and this is why we get here. I try to lead transparently. And so that can also be something that you take back to your school management, that you would like a little more transparency, just depending on the politics. Everything's political as well. And Johns Hopkins does a really great job of teaching you that as well.
With grace. Awesome. That was a wonderful answer.
All right, so it looks like there are no more questions. Here on the slide, we have some important contact information. If you have any questions relating to your application, please reach out to the Office of Admissions. Here's our email address and phone number. Any program-related questions? Lisa McNeil, she's a Senior Academic Program Coordinator, and her email address is on the slide. Thank you again for your interest in the Johns Hopkins School of Education. We look forward to hearing from you. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Thank you again, Dr. Anderson and Ms. Wright.